Friends, Roger Sipe coming at you September 8th, Tuesday, 2020, coming at you from the bunker of awesome here. And in our ongoing series about how you can have a winning third to 2020, wherever you're starting from, what I thought it was going to be important to talk about with you today is something, again, that we have really seen. If you go back to last week's video, how there's this gap between those who are really winning right now and those who are really struggling. And one of the things that we're seeing as not the exact starting point, which we talked about last week, but a next key piece is how people address the things that hold them back, okay? So pay attention with me, because there's excuses and there's reasons. It's very easy to confuse those two things, and if you confuse them, you really cause yourself problems that you don't need to. So let's go. All right, so there's excuses, and then there's reasons, right? Let's define these first, and you see what you're dealing with. I don't know what you're dealing with specifically, but I do know that it's really important to identify these two things and see which one you're dealing with. So let's talk about reasons first, okay? Sometimes there's obstacles that are not excuses. You're not making up some story. There's a legitimate reason for you getting sort of shut down on some particular thing, right? I'll give you a personal example. Currently, most of you probably know that I'm a fitness guy. I've been into CrossFit style stuff for quite some time now, and I really like it. Well, currently, I do not do back squats. I don't do heavy squats. And every time it comes up in the workout, every time it's like, all right, we're going to do some squats today, and I bail out, I always get mad. I'm like, God, I feel like I'm making excuses here for doing an alternative movement here, because squats are such a good thing to do. Well, I'm not making excuses. The deal is, I had hip replacement surgery back in December. I'm 9 months removed, and I'm still in the place where doing heavy squats, back squats or overhead squats especially, is super detrimental to my health. It's the movement that is most likely to dislocate my replaced hip and cause me a huge amount of pain. That's not an excuse. That's a reason for the time being why I'm not doing squats at the gym. Make sense? Because when you're dealing with an actual reason, simply going, no excuses, and plowing ahead, all it is a recipe for injury. So think about this in your business. I'll give you an example from my business as well. Back in March, as you know, I said this in last week's video, we had built our company on speaking engagements, running around the country and giving talks to groups of people. Well, guess what? Running around the country and groups of people got shut down for a while. And that wasn't, so us as a team going, hey, we're not going to focus on running around the country and doing speaking engagements. That's not making excuses. We're dealing with a reason. And if we just keep plowing forward, we're simply going to beat our face against a wall. And that's not smart. So listen, look at your situation. If you've got a reason, if there's a legitimate thing that's holding you back, that's standing in your way, and I know there are several that are legit right now. There's reasons all over the place. Own that. Don't get mad at yourself. If you're sitting there and you've got a legit reason and you're going, oh, no excuses, I'm just making excuses, and you're just going to try harder at this same thing, it's simply going to introduce a lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and a lot of bad feelings, which are the most energy-draining things that you can experience. So don't do it to yourself. Adapt. If you're dealing with a reason, own that. Refer back to last week's video on accepting your situation exactly as it is, and do something different, okay? Let's talk about excuses, because I actually do find that this one is more common. Sometimes you can take things that might look like a reason and that people might buy as a reason, and you can turn it into an excuse for your poor performance. What an excuse is I'd say that it's a quote-unquote reason that we've basically told ourselves a story that it's legit, right? So here's what I'm talking about. I'll go back to my physical fitness example. Right, I have a reason for not doing squats, heavy squats in the gym. Using that as a story like, oh, I can't work out at all, that would be excuse making. You understand the difference, right? In my business, sure, we have a reason why there's not speaking engagements happening, but the truth of the matter is, if I let that go into, well, I just can't do anything, my business is screwed, so I'm just going to sit on my couch, that would be excuse making. Are you with me on this? And I'll tell you that making excuses is probably the biggest way that I'm seeing people hold themselves back. They're not being held back, they're holding themselves back. And it's especially dangerous making excuses right now because you'll get a lot of support for your excuse making. Boy, you can make any excuse that you want to, and your colleagues, your peers, your friends, your superiors in many cases, they will let you get away with it because there's just so much going on. So listen, look yourself in the mirror. How do you know? How do you know if you're making excuses? I would tell you that you want to look at what's going on around you. Comparison is generally not a good idea, but now is a really good time. If you're struggling, look around at your peer group, your colleagues, your territory, whatever you would consider the group that you're sort of in a similar situation with, and see if anybody is thriving. And if anybody is thriving where you're not in that peer group, it's likely that it's because they're not making excuses where maybe you are. And you need to knock that off. My man James Brown down in Nebraska is a classic example of this. I've mentioned him several times and you hear me talk about him a lot. He's part of a territory that is experiencing challenges numerically, in many cases down 5 to 10% year over year, whereas he himself is literally up 50 to 60% in all those key metrics. And a big part of it is because he is telling himself a different, more adaptive story. He's not making excuses where a lot of his peers are. And I can tell you a lot more stories about that, but here's what I'll tell you right now is we're starting to run out of time here. I promise to keep this under 10 minutes. Look yourself in the mirror. You're the only one that can really know. And the truth of the matter is, if you have legitimate reasons that are out of your control, that are holding you back, great, own that. Don't take the blame, do take responsibility, and adapt. Make something happen, but do it differently. And if the truth of the matter is that you're just making excuses, feeling sorry for yourself, waiting around, or making up some other story where you're the one shooting yourself in the foot, knock it off. If I was your coach, I would just tell you, knock it off and get to work. All right? Listen, I dig you. I think you're fantastic. And I know that you've got the goods to make the rest of this year, this third, into something that you're going to feel fantastic about. If there's any way that we can help, please give me a call. Shoot me an email. Let me know. We're here for you. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week.